DPL Closures and Joints Report, Confirm Data and Resolve Closures. This tutorial provides a demonstration of confirming data and resolving closures in DPL Closures and Joints Report for survey industry users. For demonstrations on how to navigate the DPL Closures and Joins diagram tab, please see the DPL Closures and Plans overview video on the Industry Education Hub for industry professionals on the Land Services Group website. We'll now take a look at how to confirm data in your closures. Once the DWG has been drafted to the DPL CAD standard and uploaded into the Uploads tab under Plan Lodgements, your CAD standards will run. Once that report has been generated, PPR validation report will run. Once both those reports are successful, the TIFF is then generated, and that preview PDF will be available under the preview PDF button at the top right hand corner. Once TIFF generation has been successful, the Diagrams tab will also be available, and this is where we will show all of your closures and joins reports and the diagram. For this plan, at file upload, DPL has processed the .dwg and it has derived 141 lines of data from the plan automatically with no manual data entry required. That's almost 300 distance and bearing label data entries created and displayed in your closures, your joins, and on the diagram. In most cases, if the DWG has been drafted to the DPL CAD standard, we are able to derive almost all of the information required to complete the closures for plans, with minimal instances where some closure data requires confirmation to resolve. In these instances, there are a few ways that we can confirm the data, and let's have a look at those now. If we have a look at our parcel 25 here, we can see we've got one error, and if we put this twisty down, we can see the valid details were not found for line 82 to 86. So this is a line where DPL processing has been unable to find all of the information for this line. So we need to go and add it in and just confirm it in our closure. There's a couple of ways that we can do that. The first one is to go up to edit diagram lines. So this is going to give us a list of every line that we have in our closures, and there is an option to edit those lines in that screen if we want to input our label data into our lines. But I'm going to do it at a parcel level, and I'm going to click on the show details for parcel 25. So we've got some different line colours displayed for this parcel. So a black line indicates that we've got a surveyed line. So it had a distance and a bearing label in our DWG. And so it has displayed the line as black, and our label data has displayed with black text as well. If we had any copy distances in our plan, then those copy distance labels would show in blue, and the line that it's referring to would also show as a blue line, and we would know that that's an unsurveyed line. If we've got lines that do require confirmation of their data, then they will show up as orange, and so that's the line that we're looking at for this closure. For our parcel, we can see we don't have any closure details, and it's showing with a status error. We can see here quite easily that the problem with this is that the distance label has not been added, or the distance for this line has not been added to the closure. So we can go up to this Edit Parcel Details button, and what this gives us is an editable version of our closure. and we can see highlighted in red here that we have a distance missing. So in this case, we need to calculate this distance. We've got an overall of 27.28. This dashed line here is an easement line, and we've got a part distance of 0.33, and that's for the section for 85 to 86. So what we will need to do is take that overall distance, subtract the part distance, and that will leave us with our part distance that we need to fill in for the closure. So if I double click into this field, it gives me a list of distance labels that it's found on the plan. And if we were updating this with a label, so the overall distance, I should be able to find it in this list and just click on it and that would fill it in. But in this case, we need to manually type it in because we do have to derive that distance. So I'm going to type in the distance, which is 26.95, and hit enter. So we can see that it's updated the shading of that field. It's no longer shaded red, and the line color has changed to blue. So I'm just going to press save and refresh. Back on our parcel details screen, we can see that the missed closure and bearing and distance has been updated because the closure has been able to resolve itself with that distance which we've put in, and the status has been updated to passed. So this has now resolved the closure for that parcel, and it's no longer showing in our show errors filter. Now we're going to have a look at adding a bearing to a closure. So if we click on parcel 32, we can see we've got an orange line here between 0.80 and 0.70. So we'll take a look at that now. So our bearing label down here, 181.3250, is what we need to fill in for the bearing for this line. Again, I'll go to the edit parcel details screen, and I can see under that field we've got a grayed out bearing. So what this has done is it has picked up all of the bearing labels that we can find on the plan, and it has matched at the top of the list here the one that most closely matches the angle of the geometry of the line, which is a 181.3250, and we can confirm that that is the bearing that we do need to add to this line here. So we're just going to click on that and hit enter. And again, what that has done is it has updated the field is no longer showing in red, and we could update any other details for our closure that do require them from here, and then click save and refresh. Again, we now can see our closure information that's been updated, and the status has been updated to passed also. And if we close, we can see that that parcel is no longer showing in our show errors filter. Now we will run through what to do when we need to remove a point from a polygon closure. LSSA are constantly improving our data processing to decrease the instances where any manual confirmation of closures data is required is minimised. We still do have a few instances where we will need to remove an extraneous point number from a closure so that it better represents the label data that is showing on the plan. In this plan, if we have a look at construction parcel 1, we can see that there are 2 errors for this parcel. On this twisty, we can see the valid details are not found for line 9 to 24 and also not found for 24 to 6. So because we've got a doubling up of our point number here, that's a pretty good indication that there's an extra point in our closure, which has created 2 lines. So in this case, we've got 0.6 to 24 and from 24 to 9, but we only have label data from 0.6 to 9. So we've got 4168 as the distance, and then we've got our bearing label over here. And so this is a pretty good indicator that we actually just need to remove 24 from our closure, and then that will better match the label data that we've got showing on the plan. Again, I'm going to go to show details and the edit parcel details button at the top here. So what I need to do is just confirm that the distance does need to go from 6 to 9. And what I will need to do is remove 0.24 from the closure. So the easiest way to do that is to go to this points box and can just delete point number 24 from the closure. So what that has done now, it's recalculated this closure to go from 0.9 to 0.6, and we have matching label data for that line, distance 4168, bearing 355.0720. So I'm just going to hit save and refresh. Again, it's been able to resolve our closure now. We've got a misclosure bearing distance, allowable misclosure, and our status for this parcel has been updated to passed. Again, that parcel has now gone from our show errors and overrides filter on the plan diagram. Now let's have a look at a parcel with a misclosure. So having a look at parcel 51, if we display our error here, we can see our misclosure distance is greater than the survey polygon allowable misclosure. So we know that there is a misclosure within this parcel details. If we go to show details, we can see that the closure is complete. So there's no missing data here. There's nothing to be confirmed. It has used the label data that has been provided on the DWG to calculate the closure for this polygon. And we've got the closure details here, and we can see that our distance is outside of tolerance for this parcel. If we have a look at our labels on this plan in the closure, we've got a couple of distances which look pretty good. So 9 metres on the eastern and the western boundaries of parcel 51. But if we have a look at the distances for the northern and the southern boundary, it looks like a bit of a typo may have been made when the DWG was being prepared. So we've got a couple of distances here, 33.37 and 33.31. So we wouldn't be able to go and simply update this parcel in our closures, because then we would have information in a closure that is not reflected on our DWG, and we need those two things to align. So in this case, this would need to the job editor or the drafter would need to go back and figure out exactly what the value should be for these labels and update them in the DWG and re-upload that DWG into Plan Lodgement DPL. And I would assume that they would correct their mistake. So we'd have a different label value to pick up for one of these distances, and it would be correct, and therefore we wouldn't have an error showing for this parcel once it had been resolved in the DWG and re-uploaded into DPL. So just to recap, we've looked at editing a bearing and a distance in a closure to add the label data to a polygon. We've removed an unnecessary point number from a closure so that the closure reflects the label values. And then we've looked at a polygon with a misclosure that would require correcting in the DWG and re-uploading into DPL plan uploads.